Hello everyone, this is Teacher Michelle and welcome to another episode of Unang Math. In this episode, our lesson is about inverse proportion equation. What do we mean when we say inverse proportion? Inverse proportion explains that for two quantities x and y, as the value of x changes to 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and so on, the value of y changes to 1/2 times, 1 over 3 times, 1 over 4 times, following an inverse relationship. In other words, this is a kind of relationship between two quantities where an increase in one quantity causes a proportional decrease in the other. Okay, let's give an example. When 60 candies are evenly distributed among X people, with each person receiving Y candies without any remainder, the relationship between X and Y can be represented in the following table. Okay, this is the table, and X quantity here represents the number of people. So this is number of people. Okay, what about our Y quantity? Y quantity represents the number of candies. Okay, now let's find out the relationship between these two quantities, number of people and number of candies. Okay, from 1 to 2, this is 2 times. From 1 to 3, this is 3 times. From 1 to 4, this is 4 times. And from 1 to 5, this is 5 times. Okay, what about here? Our Y quantity. From 60 to 30, that means that is 1/2 times. Because half of 60 is 30. Okay, what about from 60 to 20? That is 1 over 3 times. From 60 to 15, that's 1 over 4 times. And from 60 to 12, that is 1 over 5 times. Okay, in here, it changes 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. While here, it changes to 1/2 times, 1 over 3 times, 1 over 4 times, and 1 over 5 times. Okay, it only means that these two quantities are inversely proportional. So there is an inverse relationship between x and y quantities, or we can also say that y is inversely proportional to x. Okay, in this example, we can also understand that for every one person, that one person receives 60 candies. Okay, two persons, they will receive 30 candies each. Okay, the x quantity can also be understood by saying that the x is the cause, or the x quantity is the cause, and y quantity is the result. So to find the result, what we have to do is we have to divide 60 by the number of people, which is represented by the variable x. So it's going to be y is equal to 60 over x. Y is equal to 60 over x. This is an inverse proportion equation. Okay, what does it mean when we say inverse proportion equation? It explains that if y is inversely proportional to x, the relationship between x and y can be expressed as y is equal to a over x, where a should not be equal to 0. Okay, in here, or in this table, from 1 to 2, that's 2 times. From 1 to 3, 3 times. From A to this one, so that is 1/2 times. From A to this, that's 1 over 3 times. Okay, this is cause, and y quantity is our result. So to find the result, what we have to do is A over x. And this is y is equal to a over x. And a should not be equal to 0. Okay, this equation means that the two quantities are inversely proportional. Okay, there is another equation aside from y is equal to a over x. And we will derive that equation from this equation. So from A is equal to A over X. If we're looking for the value of A, what we have to do is, we just need to multiply both sides by X. So this is times X. So if we will simplify, then we have X, Y is equal to A. XY is equal to A is also an inverse proportion equation. So when you see an equation that's this pattern, that means that the two quantities are inversely proportional. Okay, more examples or examples of equation. We have y is equal to 6x. Take note, a should not be equal to 0. And a can be a positive number. A can also be a negative number, like y is equal to negative 6 over x. Okay, we have here xy is equal to 6. This is this equation. All these equations are examples of an inverse proportion equation. Okay, this time, let's answer this concept check question. We will identify the inverse proportional relationship between the two variables x and y and determine the equation that represents it. Okay, let's take a look at this first table. Okay, from 1 to 2, so that means 2 times. From 1 to 3, this is 3 times. Okay, what about this quantity? From negative 6 to negative 3, that is 1/2 times. From negative 6 to negative 2, that is 1 over 3 times. Okay, it means that x and y are inversely proportional. Okay, x can be understood that this is the cause and y is the result. So, what would be the equation that would represent these two quantities that are inversely proportional? So, to find the result or to find the value of y, what we have to do is divide negative 6 by x. So our equation is y is equal to negative 6 over x. Okay, now, what about this number 2 table? From 1 to 2, this is 2 times. From 1 to 3, that is 3 times. Okay, what about y quantity? From negative 2 to negative 4, that is also 2 times. From negative 2 to negative 6, that's also 3 times. So it means that the relationship between these two quantities, x and y, are directly proportional. So this is not an example of a relationship that are inversely proportional. So we have this table number 1, that is an example of an inverse proportional relationship between the two quantities. Okay, now, let's answer this simple problem. Y is inversely proportional to x, and when x is equal to 3 and y is equal to negative 24, what is the equation that represents the relationship between x and y? Okay, from these words, inversely proportional and equation, so our equation would be y is equal to a over x, or x, y is equal to a. Okay, in this problem, it would be more convenient if we will use this equation, xy is equal to a. So let's just substitute the value of x and y in this equation. So x is 3. So 3 times y is negative 24. So 3 times negative 24, that would be equal to a. 3 times negative 24 is negative 72. So a is negative 72. So what will be our equation in this relationship between x and y? So that would be y is equal to, a is negative 72, so negative 72 over x. So this is now our equation.